Hello friends, this is Chandrakant from Akulmac Technologies and welcome to the CEO Roundtable this Friday. And let me also welcome my friends who are joining from different parts of the world. First guest is Miss Farida Charania. She joins us from Singapore and she is also the CEO of Career Zoom, a very specialized HR company.
Hello everyone. Hope everyone has had a good week ahead and everyone is looking forward to the weekend. Let's get started. I'm so looking forward to this discussion today. Interesting topic.
Certainly, Farida, welcome to the roundtable. Our second guest is Ms. Kanchan Verma. She joins us from India. She is the CEO of tech ed company called Akulmac Technologies.
Hello, how are you all? And I'm look forward for a good discussion today.
Certainly, Kanchan, welcome to the CEO roundtable. And before we start, today is 2nd October, and I'd like to wish both of you a very happy Gandhi Jayanti.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you and same to you. It's a very, very important day.
Yes. So to begin our discussion today, let me also talk about the topic that we have chosen for the CEO roundtable discussion, and that is the value creation. And in fact, let me give little preface of what is value creation. Value is the perceived value of what you provide as a business to your clients and to your audience, and also to your prospective or your investors, prospective investors as well as your current investors. So it's basically value you bring on the table as an organization is something that we will talk about. And many times what happens is that the people just offer solution without thinking of the value. They say that, hey, I have this solution, but what is the value, perceived value or the real value to the client is not really understood. So we will discuss this aspect of doing business. And thank you for giving me time to give this preface, but I'll leave the floor open to anyone to start the discussion.
Okay, I just recall one very old saying that become a person of not become a person of a success, but become a person of value. So that means a person of value can give you more than what he receives. So when we talk about value in terms of sales, in terms of company, in terms of organization, I think there are three pillars which are very important. That value to your customers, value to your employees, and value to your investors. So all things starts with the value to your customers because that is the main aspect. But I think that's irony that if we want to give value to the customer, we have to again find out options where we can give value to your employees, because both of these two parameters goes hand in hand. And now when we are talking about value to the customer, which is the first aspect of value creation in the market. So that means we have to take care of your customers' desires, and you have to there are some products which from very early we are producing, but then we should be open to innovation. We should look after what actually a customer is looking for. And over the period of time, one customer though there are some few essential things, but of course if you add some value to it, some innovation to it, that gives altogether value proposition to the organization.
Okay. Thanks for sharing that, Kanchan. This was quite something that I had in my mind as well. The whole premise of creating value in a business begins with value creation. So business itself starts with value creation. It's a purpose of the institution to create and deliver value in an efficient enough way that it will generate profit after cost. That is my understanding of generating value. And just to, kind of pick up from where, CK was talking about, that there are a lot of services and products which don't clearly define the value that they bring to the customer. I'll go a step further and say I have seen products which probably, try to find solutions to problems that no one has. So it is, very important, one, to understand what is the value that your service or product is actually adding to your client's life or to your customer's life. How does it impact the entire industry in general? And creating of value is something which should be the very premise of creating a business. Because what is it that you are doing in your business? Are you actually delivering a service which is making their life easier? Are you, for instance, say, are you designing a logo that's taking away a part of their work and doing it professionally for them, and then saving them the time and cost to hire someone who can actually design a logo for them? Are you creating a website? Are you actually helping them do digital marketing? Or are you selling a physical product? What exactly are you doing, and how is it adding value to the end customer? It's very, very important to be aware of what it is even before you actually start having a business idea in your mind. It should always be backwards or top down, in my opinion.
Great. So I think all of us has made the opening remarks, and what we would like to do is basically discuss much more in depth. So let me start this. See, basically what happens is that when you start a new project, anyone, if you are a CEO or a project manager, you have to see exactly where, what the value that project is going to bring to the end customers. So the whole situation is that you may think that something which is very appealing to yourself, but it does not have any bearing, or you don't find too many people looking for that particular line of service. So that is where the confusion is. I would say if you look at the startup community today, 70 to 80% are in this bracket, because they see that, hey, others have done it. Hey, they have created a product. There is so much demand of that product. I will also create it, and hence I will also succeed along with it. But the whole problem of understanding the value. So the whole point is, if you don't understand what you bring on the table, which is a perceived value of your client. So I think the first step would be to start a dipstick exercise where you actually find out who are the clients, who needs this, who doesn't need it, what is your strategy to reach out to the people. When do you start telling people that, hey, you are developing something like this, you are going to start this digital marketing, you're going to start whatever service you have in mind, you will actually launch yourself. So what is the timing? And all this will add into your value, because now you have, say, for example, contacted 100 people, so 50 are waiting for it. That means 50 people are perceiving that you will bring some value after 1 month or 2 months whenever you launch yourself. So I think this is where the starting point of value creation is. It goes a long way, but I think over to you. Any remarks on this one?
I feel that though it's very important points you have raised, but when we start selling, the concept of customer perception of the value, what customers looking at, is very, very important. So the moment you start selling, you have to keep it in mind that when you are providing value of service or product, the retention and the profit. So as I was telling you, this is a cycle of value, creating a value proposition among three pillars of an organization. So when we customer retention and profit, and in return, it's again goes to when we have a profit, it goes in the organization. Then again, we have to create a value proposition to keep our employees happy. We have to provide training so that they come out with new ideas, new innovations, and we can also, there's also, you have to retain your employees. So in a way, it is a whole cycle where you are starting, as Farida said, with a thought that we are establishing a company. But then these are the parameters which you have to think we have to think about innovative products and how we are providing this into supply chains, into distribution. So all this has to be taken care. Then we have R&D to to be taken care in the organization, and thus creating value proposition in all these sectors, in all these places, to really create an organizational value proposition in the end.
So, Farida, before you come in, I would like to have a little debate on this aspect. See, the whole point, Kanchan, is that people are not even clear what value they are going to bring. So, I think the first step would be to do a market study. For example, you create the whole infrastructure and you spend millions of dollars, basically saying that you have to build the supply chain, you have to build your team, you have to have innovation, you have to have R&D. So you have created different departments, only to learn after 1.5 years or 2 years, hey, there is no demand for it. So whatever you have been doing, spending money and building all this infrastructure, will not result in any value after 2 years. So my point was that we create the value upfront. What is the value so we have to know exactly who are the buyers, and to these buyers, what is valuable. So I think I'm going to say that it's the other way around. You don't develop something which is running in your mind because you feel it, but you have to find out who are your first 100 clients and see what they need, because the need of a client is very important. So I think this is something.
Exactly. So that's what I was saying, that before even you start, when the idea of creating a product or services, establishing an organization, you must know who are your customer, who are your end user, and how you can create a value for your product or services. But then along the way, I feel that when you're establishing, so these points has to be taken care along.
I'll just try to, just give a structure to what both of you are saying. So the purpose of a business is to create value through the work. So, whatever you're selling or trading or services that you're providing, and capture some of that value as profits, because that is the ultimate end game of any business. So that is how a business is actually expected to run. Now, in terms of value, very truly, because you are not creating a product for yourself when you are an innovator. If you are a service provider, you are not creating the service for yourself, but you are creating it for the users or for your consumers. Yeah. So I agree with you, CK, that it is very important to first understand who is your buying audience and then work top down from there. Because we can't just have an idea, and it's okay to have an idea, but before actually creating a product or a service out of that idea, it's very important to understand who is actually going to be your buying segment and how will it actually make a difference. So let's take an example, and I've said this before, that very often when I see my friends in the startup scene, and I work a lot with the startup founders here in Singapore, because that is one of the services that we offer, which is basically, incubation support. At that point in time, I realize when I do speak to people that they are not very clear as to what they should be selling. So very often they have a whole pitch of 20 pages, which is selling what they have. Nowhere do they actually say, how will it actually add value to your customer? How will it add value to the buyer? How will it actually impact, their way of working, their way of life? So people are selling features, whereas, they should be selling benefits. So I think it boils down to the same thing, that understand the value that you are creating as a business or a service, articulate that, be very clear, so that you exactly know how it will add value to your customer's life or to your customer's business. And that is the main thing. In my mind, value creation is of utmost important even before taking up a project.
Absolutely, Farida. I think you hit the nail. is that you have to know exactly what is the value to your immediate client. And if you don't have a list of prospective clients in your startup, then you better make one. I think that's where the whole thing boils down. You should have a list of your top 100 clients, because when you're ready, these 100 or 50 of these 100 people will buy from you. And that is how you build your network. So let's come to the point number 2, which is now you have created a list of prospective clients, and they have given you some sort of information that this is what they expect from you once you launch yourself. Number 2 is how much value you can demand. For example, you have created a ERP solution, you have created a some sort of a sales solution or a digital marketing platform, or even a physical supply chain management, or anything. How much value that you can demand for your business, and specifically when you are actually giving certain solutions or package to your client. So I think that is where the challenge is, because I've been talking, like Farida, you said you work with the startups. I've been talking to a lot of startup who are my friends and also who are in the network, and they give me story on and on, and there's a strategy, this is what they want to do, and this is exactly going to succeed, and how it's going to succeed, but they don't have these basic building block. So how much value they should ask for is a big challenge. So Farida, what is your opinion on this one?
I think pricing is definitely, it's a function of how much value actually you are bringing in, and that's precisely what value creation is. Now, not all value created is equal. Value can be created by somebody opening the door. That's a service. To, probably a scientist finding the way to actually convert the solar energy to, run electronics in your home. So values are different. Now the pricing is something, if there is a competitive space and there are other providers providing the same kind of service, you already have a reference point. But if it's a niche, and if you found a niche which did not exist and started, kind of providing services in that area, then how do you value it? So I would say that let's take an example. For instance, you have created, say, a solution which is an artificial intelligence solution, which automatically, takes away the customer's pain. If your customer actually comes on the chatbot, all the initial queries are answered already before they actually reach a real person. So what is the value that the service provider is actually creating, or the product is actually creating? It's taking away the admin task from real people, allowing them more time to focus on work which a machine cannot do. So it's actually saving them time in terms of people investing time, manpower in terms of somebody actually going and sifting through those queries. So how do you actually define the value? If it's going to cost the organization same in the long run, there is no value. But are you actually, so what is the value? So you are increasing productivity, as a service provider, or your product is increasing the productivity of that organization. It is fine-tuning the time to respond. Eventually, it will also impact the cost in a positive way. So it will actually bring down the cost. So value is basically a function of all those three things. Now, if the value is probably even similar to what they would invest when a real person is actually doing it, it should be fine, but it has to give them some clear deliverables as to this is what will happen if you use this. So if it's a service, that if you're going to, like I started with that example of a logo, what is it that, as a service provider, you are actually creating value for? You are creating the value there by saving the company that headache of actually going and hiring somebody on their own roles, somebody to basically manage day to day, and then keep paying that cost even when they don't need the service. So you're saving them that time. So that is the value creation. So that definition has to be very, very clear. And I think a lot of companies, lot of startups possibly falter at that particular point.
Kanchan, you have
I'll
something
take
to
an
say?
example of from education field, because now everything is digitization, and I very much agree about the pricing factor which Farida has discussed. So, for example, now we suppose if we are talking about online education, for example. So, what happens nowadays? From very long time, children sit in front of screen. So, in case if we want to some additional uh, know-how to a children. So the package the company should provide a lesser screen time and on a lesser price and more learning outcome. So in this way, it creates a value proposition for children and for parents, and of course for the company. They built a name in that sphere.
So I think all these comments that you made, both Kanchan and Frida, they are very valuable. So let me summarize all this. See, I think in terms of value, the thumb rule should be 10x. That means if you are able to give 10x value to the client, considering all the examples that you have quoted, Farida and Kanchan, that lesser screen time, for example, is a value, how much that will save the client. For example, Farida, you mentioned about, how much time saving that person is going to have because they are using some XY technology, and what is the value of that time for the client. So I think all these parameters needs to be evaluated and computed, and the thumb rule should be 10x. And if you are able to give 10x value to the client, you take 1x out of it. So I think that is what I would like to say. You give 10x and take 1x out of it.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree more.
All right. So I think we have discussed the first aspect is, first of all, you have to know exactly which is your client and what is the value you bring. Second is how much value you want to assign to yourself. And I think all of this should go into planning even before you start rolling out or investing money in setting up your business. You should have a clear idea of, what is the value you bring on the table and for whom, and how much is the value of your business. So a copycat, for example, will not succeed because a copycat, he may be sitting in some other marketplace, and guess what, he would have already done his market study and he knows exactly which are the clients who will buy from him. So you can't look at the success of somebody else and drive in some other market. So I think that is something which people should have clarity. So number 3 point in value is, when you actually create a value, how long this business will be valuable. Maybe if I have to throw example, when we were kids, our parents bought a car and they ran a car for 20 years and they used to feel proud. In fact, we had a car in our home which we had for 30 years. So we used to feel very proud about it. We bought this for some 5,000 rupees. Now it is, after 30 years, still running. So the whole point is, that is not the case anymore, because if you are in 50s and 60s and 70s, a car manufacturer could project his business. If I sell my car, people will use it for 30 years. That means even after 60 years, I will still be in business because they will be buying spare parts from me. But that is not the case here. I mean, car has become more or less like a mobile phone. People use it for 5 years. So even a heavy machinery industry like a automobile, the life is 5 years. So I think what is the value that you bring on the table and how long that value will be. And I have a fourth, connotation after that, but I'd like to take your opinion on this one.
I think, I kind of agree with everything that you are saying, because honestly, that's exactly how I feel as well. And I think it's very valuable. Also, like in today's world, this whole COVID situation has rocked the global economy so strongly. Yeah. And with these challenges, there are opportunities to pivot and find virtual solutions to meet the needs of the changing business landscape. Now, in this thing, I see a lot of mushrooming companies coming up with a lot of offerings. But here the key is to actually find value. How do you get heard in a noisy world? You do if you have the value. And it goes down back to the drawing board, where you define the value, understand who are the people who are going to actually get that value from you. How are you going to price it to return the value to you in terms of profits, and how long will your proposition be valuable? What is the life cycle? Is it going to be valuable for 1 year, 2 year, 3 year? Will it actually be valuable in the post-COVID world when things would have changed drastically? So it's very important to define all of these things. And CK, I think when you were saying that, it was almost I was hearing myself saying it, because it's exactly the same way that I feel as well.
I think that when we establish a value proposition, and when we have to establish a life cycle also for our services and our product. And but along with that, we should also keep in mind that, okay, fine, maybe this will run maybe for this product or service will be there for my clients maybe for 4 to 5 years. But after 5 years, what we will be doing? So we'll not be closing our doors. So in that case, we should have that kind of thought process that maybe after 5 years we'll do this, we do this in innovation, or we'll go into a different direction. We'll cater different clients, and we may add more feature to our services or product. So this enhance the sustainability in the market.
Yeah.
So that is also very important.
Sorry, I thought you had finished. I'm also saying that, it's also important when you're creating that value to understand what is the resistance that stops that particular value from scaling. Because that should be part of your planning, since, already, you already know that it might be the life cycle or the lifetime value of that proposition is only that much. So we also need to kind of, as a service provider or as a business provider, we also need to figure out that what is the resistance that will stop it from scaling, and be prepared for that as well.
Right.
So I think from both of your comments, which obviously coming out from successful business that you have run in the past, I think the fourth point in terms of value is the diversification. Because what is happening is, if you don't diversify, then there is a limited shelf life of your offering, of your value. And after the value is exhausted, your products or services will not have any need, because the industry has moved on. There are new things which are coming in the market, and you have become outdated, obsolete. So I think the fourth point is to diversify your offerings in terms of keeping your business alive and sustained. So let me just end with a simple example. We have all heard of a company called Nokia. They started as a paper company 200 years back, and they became very successful. And eventually they became a high-tech company. And today, when we use our mobile phone anywhere in the world, we actually go through Nokia technology. The whole impact of Nokia is so profound on today's world, is that you cannot use your mobile without going through one of the Nokia endpoints or a server. Yet the company is no longer existing. They've lost their market share. Nobody knows about Nokia anymore. I mean, they know, but they keep launching their mobile devices, but it's not really great. So having reached really the top end of the market, they simply vanished. And they vanished within a period of 1 year. A 200-year-old company, what it took to vanish is only a couple of months, like to be precise, 8 months. So I think the point is diversification, and I'll leave the floor open for you guys to comment.
Yes, actually diversification is very, very important aspect of any business. For example, I'll take example from an education field. Now, suppose if we are providing a math courses online, so after some time, people will also get bored. What math? So we have to come up with new, maybe Vedic math or maybe abacus. So these we have to integrate with that. Now after that, what we cannot keep on teaching abacus, though math is is a base of a base subject. Then we have to add maybe a coding, which can very well integrate with the math education. So likewise, step by step, it's very essential to really upgrade the business offerings to the client, and then we just create a value proposition.
Yeah, I think absolutely, because just to kind of, understand where the diversification should actually start, because it shouldn't happen that, in a matter of few days or few months, the company actually becomes obsolete. So we don't just have Nokia's example, we have Skype's example. I'm like, bro, you had 7 years of head start on any other, system like Zoom or, Teams, etc. What happened? This was your opportunity. What happened? So it is very easy to kind of, go out of sight, out of mind. If there is not enough engagement, if there is not enough diversification, and there is not enough, alignment with the market. So yes, I mean, on that, I would say that you got an idea, great. First, find the right people. Two, explore together. Third, just make it happen. But don't forget the thing that the basis or the premise of anything is value creation. And don't forget that in that enthusiasm to get something going.
So I think today's discussion was very meaningful, especially for the SME segment, the startup community, or whoever, a young entrepreneur, whoever wants to start their own company or some small group or anything in life. I think the 4 parameters, which are the really basic parameters of starting a business, is find value, how much to value, what to sell, whom to sell, and diversify at the right time. So these are the 4 our expert guests have given us this wisdom. And I thank you, Farida and Kanchan, for joining us in the roundtable.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
So we will meet again next Friday with some other engaging subject related to business. Until then, bye-bye.
Bye.